Justice Mohammed Garba Umar of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja on Friday apparently rejected the plans by the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun, to stop the upcoming Monday, October 20th planned mass protests by Nigerians to demand the release of the detained Biafra Republic agitation leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, but, according to the organizer of the protest, Omoyele Sowore, after the judge initially declined to grant the Nigeria police force an ex-parte motion to stop the planned protest in the open court, the Federal High Court judge, Justice Umar, reportedly granted the motion in chambers, imposing a ban on protests at Aso Rock Villa, National Assembly, or Unity Fountain in Abuja. We await a certified true copy of the order, which our lawyers will review. The protest remains unstoppable. While this is ongoing, the United States, U.S. Embassy in Nigeria has warned American citizens to be far from the protest areas and limit their movements in the Nigeria capital city, Abuja, saying, the planned protest may lead to disruptions and violence. Detailed of the court action as captured by Punch newspaper. The Federal High Court in Abuja has refused the Nigeria police force's bid to stop the Free Nnamdi Kanu protest, allowing it to proceed as scheduled on Monday, October 20, 2025. The Inspector General of Whenever controversies surround Rufai Asani, the outspoken and fearless broadcaster on Arise television, one recurring argument often resurfaces in public discourse, the claim that Rufai Asani is not a journalist. Critics are quick to emphasize that he lacks a formal academic background in journalism, having originally trained in animal anatomy. But beyond the semantics of qualification, a deeper question emerges. What truly defines a journalist, and what are the core functions of journalism in society? As mass communication teacher, we teach students from the very first class that the media exist to inform, educate, entertain, and preserve cultural heritage. Journalists also play the crucial roles of agenda setting and acting as watchdogs, holding public officials accountable and amplifying the voices of the governed. The media's capacity to shape national conversations is immense. By highlighting specific issues and giving them prominence, journalists help raise awareness and influence public perception. It is through such agenda-setting functions that societies engage in dialogue, debate, and reform, thereby playing a participatory role in the process of governance. When examined through this functional lens, it becomes clear that Rufai Asani has consistently fulfilled these journalistic responsibilities over the years. His incisive questioning, fearless commentary, and commitment to public accountability. Nigerian Army Authority has issued a statement, denying threat messages issued against members of the public ahead of the planned mass protest slated for October 20, 2025 to demand for the release and freedom of the detained Biafra Republic agitation leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, just as the organizer and chief campaigner, Omoyele Sowore, the publisher of Sahara Reporters news media, met to seek understanding with the former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who, according to Sowore, promised to visit President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to discuss the issue with him. Nigerian Army, in a statement on Friday, said, the attention of the Nigerian Army, NA, has been drawn to a misleading publication by Sahara Reporters alleging that a Facebook page purportedly operated by military personnel issued veiled threats against certain individuals ahead of a planned October 20th protest. The report is not only false but a deliberate attempt to misinform the public and discredit the noble institution of the Nigerian Army. For the avoidance of doubt, the Nigerian Army has only two official social media handles, namely at HQ Nigerian Army and at Nigerian Army Info, which are duly verified on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. Any other page or account outside these verified handles does not belong to the Nigerian Army and should be disregarded in its entirety. It is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria has accepted the resignation of the Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Jeffrey Uche-Naji, who had been accused of forging the degree certificate of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and the Certificate of Completion of Service for the one-year mandatory National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, after he allegedly failed an exit course, virology, repeatedly at the university. Nigeria presidency. In a statement made available a few minutes ago by the presidential spokesperson, Bayo Onanuga, stated that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has accepted the resignation of Jeffrey Uche-Naji, the Minister of Innovation, Science, and Technology, following some allegations against him. President Tinubu appointed Naji in August 2023. He resigned today in a letter thanking the president for allowing him to serve Nigeria. Naji said he has been a target of blackmail by political opponents. President Tinubu thanked him for his service and wished him well in future endeavors. Earlier, Nigeria's state-controlled media, NTA, had reported that the Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Uche Jeffrey Naji, has dismissed reports questioning his academic qualifications, describing them as politically motivated attempts to tarnish his image. The minister has firmly defended the authenticity of his university. Princess Ola Torera Maje Kadunmianiru from Ogun State and a Commonwealth Award winner who is currently pursuing a master degree in law has called on the federal government of Nigeria under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to immediately release the detained Biafra Republic agitation leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, stating in a statement personally signed and made available to Media Newsroom on Monday, that 10 years of detention without conviction is a grave violation of the fundamental human rights of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, specifically stated verbatim that the continued detention of Mr. Kanu without conviction is not merely a legal anomaly. It is a profound failure of justice and a grave violation of his fundamental human rights. His prolonged detention exposes the widening gap between Nigeria's constitutional expectations and the daily realities of citizens. We must have a justice system that acts with both fairness and decisive strength, not one ensnared in endless procedural limbo and mired in public distrust. According to the princess, across the span of a decade, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has endured one of the longest and most troubling pre-trial detentions in Nigeria's history. Arrested in 2015, accused, pleading not guilty, and never convicted, he remains confined in a blatant defiance of the most fundamental human rights principles. Where is justice when a man stands unconvicted? Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, may have given a clearer picture on how some companies are apparently aiding and making more money from the ongoing war in his country Ukraine, saying, "Since the start of the war 4 years ago, some unnamed companies in the United States, US, United Kingdom, UK, China, Germany, Taiwan, Switzerland, Japan, Korea Republic, Netherlands are producing components Russia under President Vladimir Putin is using to produce weapons of mass destruction to kill his people." This, Zelensky in his own words said on Monday that in the fourth year of the full-scale war, Russia continues to obtain components for producing weapons. During the massive combined strike on Ukraine on the night of October 5, Russia used 549 weapon systems containing 102,785 foreign-made components from companies in the United States, China and Taiwan, the United Kingdom, Germany, Switzerland, Japan, the Republic of Korea, and the Netherlands. Nearly 100,688 of foreign-made parts were in the launched attack drones, about 1,500 were in Iskanders, 192 in Kinzhal missiles, and 405 in Calibers. Zelensky stated this in a statement made available through his personal social media. Two separate courts in the Nigeria Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, on Tuesday fixed October 27th and November 20th, 2025 for the commencement of the lawsuits brought before them by the founder and publisher of Sahara Reporters, Omoyele Sowore, and the Department of State Service, DSS, over issue of posts published on X and Facebook social media platforms that allegedly described President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a criminal after the president allegedly said there is no more corruption in Nigeria while the president was speaking at an event in Brazil in the month of August 2025. According to Omoyele Sowore's lawyer, Tope Temokin, today, at the Federal High Court in Abuja, Proceedings commenced in the historic cases filed by rights activist Omoyele Sowore challenging the clampdown on free speech and political expression by the Department of State Services, SSS, in collusion with global social media giants Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and X Corporation, Twitter. The suits are Omoyele Sowore vs. SSS and Meta, FHC, ABJ, CS, 1887-2025. Omoyele Sowore vs. SSS and X Corporation, FHC, ABJ, CS, 1888-2025. Sowore was represented by a formidable team of lawyers, led by Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday stated that many world leaders who do come out publicly to condemn the Israel war in Gaza, do privately thank Israel for staging the war against Hamas, and according to Benjamin Netanyahu, the world leaders tell me how much they value Israel's superb intelligence services that have prevented time and again terrorist attacks in their capitals, time and again saving countless lives. General George Keegan, former head of U.S. Air Force Intelligence, once said, if the United States had to gather on its own the intelligence that Israel gives us, we would have to establish 5 CIAs. This past June, when Israel struck Iran's nuclear facilities, German Chancellor Merz admitted the truth. This, Benjamin Netanyahu stated when the speech was being broadcast live via huge loudspeakers that were placed on the Gaza border while the Israel Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, was speaking at the United Nations General Assembly, which, his appearance drew a mix of applause and protest, with some delegates walking out of the hall as he took the stage. You know deep down that Israel is fighting your fight. I want to tell you a secret. Behind closed doors, many of the leaders who publicly condemn us, privately thank us, Benjamin Netanyahu stated in response. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated and blamed the Israel war in Gaza on Iran, saying, Iran terror axis threatened the peace of the entire world. Some parts of the long speech by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the United Nations General Assembly are presented verbatim below. Mr. President, the families of our dear hostages languishing in the dungeons of Gaza, ladies and gentlemen, last year, I stood at this podium, and I showed this map. It shows the curse of Iran's terror axis. This axis threatened the peace of the entire world. It threatened the stability of our region and the very existence of my country Israel. Iran was rapidly developing a massive nuclear weapons program and a massive ballistic missile program. These were meant not only to destroy Israel, they were meant also to threaten the United States and blackmail nations everywhere. From Gaza, Yahya Sinwar dispatched waves of Hamas terrorists. They stormed into Israel on October 7th and committed acts of unspeakable savagery. From Lebanon, Hassan Nasrallah had launched thousands of missiles and rockets at our cities, terrorizing our citizens. In Syria, the murderous dictator Assad hosted Iran's forces, tightening a noose of death around our throats. In Yemen, the Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja on Friday ruled that the detained Biafra agitation leader, Nnamdi Kanu, has case to answer, because the Nigeria government prosecution team have provided some evidence that requires explanations from the detained Biafra leader. This, the coordinating lawyer to Nnamdi Kanu, Barrister Aloy Ejimakor, said the judgment of the court does not mean Nnamdi Kanu has been pronounced guilty. Rather, the ruling indicated that he should give explanations to certain evidences the federal government of Nigeria brought before the court. It would be recalled that the ruling on the no-case submission filed by Nnamdi Kanu that was earlier slated to be held on October 10, 2025 was abridged and rescheduled to Friday the 26th of September 2025. Justice James Omotosho also rejected request by Kanu to be transferred from custody of the Department of State Services, DSS, to the National Hospital Abuja for medical examination over alleged deteriorating health issues. The court subsequently ordered the president of Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, to constitute an investigation committee to examine Kanu's medical condition and submit a report to it in 8 days following objection by DSS to his request to be transferred to National Hospital for second opinion on his health condition. We had earlier in the year reported that the case between the federal government of Nigeria and the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, and its US counterpart, Donald Trump, on Tuesday engaged in a tough talk over the recognition of Palestine state and the Israeli war in Gaza during the bilateral meeting both held on the sideline of the UN General Assembly in New York, where the French president insisted that Israel has already achieved more by killing the top militia leaders of Hamas, saying, "It doesn't work to dismantle the Hamas. This is not the right way to proceed," he said, while President Trump had reiterated and insisted that things will not work the way the French president had suggested, that the October 7, 2023 hostages still in the custody of Hamas cannot be honored with such suggestions. The meeting was held when videos of the French President, Emmanuel Macron, and Turkish President, Recep Erdogan went viral on the internet, where both presidents were stopped or blocked separately by New York police operatives as they tried to cross streets in the New York City over yet-to-be-seen incoming motorcade of their counterpart President, Donald Trump. The French president, Emmanuel Macron, called Donald Trump on the phone after his journey to the French embassy was blocked by police officers preparing for the motorcade of the US president, but that of the Turkish president, Recep Erdogan, could be seen quickly surrounded by his security team in a manner that makes the president look apparently in shock the moment some group of... There is no doubt that this week may be an interesting week in the international community as world leaders gather for the 2025 United Nations General Assembly meeting to discuss and take a stand over decades of conflicts between Israel and the people of Palestine, especially some of them well known as Hamas fighters, over territorial integrity and sovereignty, most especially ever since the State of Palestine was officially declared by the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, on the 15th of November 1988, claiming sovereignty over the West Bank, which includes East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip, and as at the end of 1988, over 78 countries approved the declaration, including Nigeria, that recognized Palestinian state barely 3 days after the declaration on November 18, 1988, and the numbers have been increasing particularly since the beginning of 2024 like never before, as at September 21, 2025. Over 151 countries out of the 193 United Nations members have recognized the Palestinian state, including United Kingdom, UK, which its recognition appears to be more disturbing to the Israeli government, with the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, issuing what he described as a clear message to the world leaders recognizing Palestine as a country of its own that it's not going to happen. The United Kingdom, Australia, Israel Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday stated that many world leaders who do come out publicly to condemn the Israel war in Gaza, do privately thank Israel for staging the war against Hamas, and according to Benjamin Netanyahu, the world leaders tell me how much they value Israel's superb intelligence services that have prevented time and again terrorist attacks in their capitals, time and again saving countless lives. General George Keegan, former head of U.S. Air Force Intelligence, once said, "If the United States had to gather on its own the intelligence that Israel gives us, we would have to establish 5 CIAs. This past June, when Israel struck Iran's nuclear facilities, German Chancellor Merz admitted the truth. This, Benjamin Netanyahu stated when the speech was being broadcast live via huge loudspeakers that were placed on the Gaza border while the Israel Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, was speaking at the United Nations General Assembly, which, his appearance drew a mix of applause and protest, with some delegates walking out of the hall as he took the stage. You know deep down that Israel is fighting your fight. I want to tell you a secret. Behind closed doors, many of the leaders who publicly condemn us, privately thank us," Benjamin Netanyahu stated in response. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated and blamed the Israel
bringing you the news in a more digital way.